It's good morning, Robert Macklin. Welcome to Yellow Shelf, Robert.
Hi, Joanna. Lovely to be here.
Oh gosh, I'm feeling really out of my depths interviewing you today. You are such an acclaimed author, an acclaimed human, and I'm excited to share your newest book, which I have a copy, The Man Who Planted Canberra. Tell us all about this book, Robert.
Well, it's a real what what I would call it is a sudden realization that the Walter Burley Griffin and his dear wife um, Marion were not the only people involved in
Yes.
the creation of Canberra.
Yeah.
By the time Walter was finally sacked by Billy Hughes in 1920, there was almost nothing done to actually build Canberra because he had terrible trouble with the bureaucrats of the day. But all along the line, there was one person who was going about his business and reforesting the area around Canberra. And finally, he took over the whole job.
Yeah.
And from 1920 on, to create the capital with 3 million trees or
Wow.
more.
Yeah.
And it was really an enormous leap forward in two ways. First of all, to Australia in having a capital, but more importantly, in a way, it was the kind of garden city that was changing the way in which we talked about and and lived in cities around the world.
Yeah.
And he made a very big statement, and such a lovely man to do it. It was such a joy to write it because of that.
Yeah. And look, the book focuses on Charles Weston and many people I hadn't heard of him. I didn't know this story. And like you mentioned, everybody aligns Canberra to, Burley Griffith and there's things that resonate with Canberra where the truth was Charles did miraculous work to lead the planting of well more than 3 million trees. And his vision for design and his ambition was just extraordinary. And you've captured it so well in this book.
Well, thank you for that. I really do appreciate that because it was a tremendous job to find out about this remarkable man
Yeah,
who had risen from very humble circumstances
yeah,
in Britain to the very top of their wonderful, huge um, gardening industry.
yes,
And by the age of 26, he was supervising and foreman of 75 men
yeah,
in a huge castle and their gardens. And he reached the top really in Britain because of uh, the class system. And there was only one place that he could go to really continue his mission.
yeah,
And that was Australia. We were so lucky to
wow.
have him. And, he sacrificed so much to be here and to come to Canberra without his lovely wife and his three gorgeous daughters,
Yes,
whom he left behind in Sydney uh, to have an education. You see,
yeah,
there were no schools in Canberra at the time. And his first child, Annie, she rose to be one of the very early uh, graduates of Sydney University,
yeah,
and uh, in mathematics, she it was where she got her degree,
yes,
and then she rose to become all the way through the education system to headmistress of uh, a very exclusive girls' school
yes,
in Sydney.
yeah,
So, and the other two girls were just wonderful too. They
yeah,
became the first person to have a job in the Commonwealth Bank in Canberra,
Yeah.
and the other one was one of the very first typists and secretaries
Wow.
in Canberra.
Yeah.
So it was. But could you imagine the man 8 years on his own in
Yeah.
a two-roomed shack
Yeah.
in Canberra without his family?
Yeah. I'm really glad you wrote the story because I learned a lot about Charles and his journey and his family and the story. But I just said to you off camera, now this book makes me feel differently about Canberra. And I was just saying, my kids go to Canberra in the last couple of years on school excursions, and it's such a part of history that we just need to add to the journey of Canberra.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it was a revelation to me as well. And
Yeah.
it's given me, I mean, I've lived here since the 1960s,
Yeah.
but I didn't really appreciate um, the way we began.
Yes.
It's Weston who really made Canberra what it is today.
Yeah.
It's just a magnificent place.
Yes.
So many um, species of trees that they will become our blanket, our defence against climate change.
Yes.
You see, Sydney and Melbourne, they've only got half a dozen at
Yeah.
most species, whereas Canberra has hundreds
Yeah.
that the Western brought from around the world. And so when the climate change really hits us hard, I'm afraid it'll be only Canberra in Australia that is still bathing in
Yeah.
the shade.
Yeah. And Robert, I'm going to share with our audience. You have had this really distinguished career, which I'm going to touch on. And correct me if I get any of this wrong, but you started your career as a young journalist. You moved into a role in press secretary in Parliament for politicians. You have written, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, more than 20 books.
Oh, yeah.
And you've also written, you've been the biographer of a former Australian Prime Minister. So you've done a lot as an author.
Yes, I have. It's been a very interesting time so far.
Yeah.
31 books
Wow.
is
Oh,
total,
wow.
but mostly Australian history,
Sure.
because you and I, um, perhaps me more than you, grew up at a time when we were just taught the British history of Australia.
True.
It's been a revolution really that we've developed as writers
Yes.
in the last decade or so, where we've really started to talk about the Australian history of
Yes.
of Australia, and it just delights me the
Yeah.
way in which we are coming home in a sense and
Yeah.
realizing the value of Australianisms,
Yes.
not as uh, followers of
Yes.
the British or the
Yes.
Americans and so
We're
on.
gonna we're gonna stand in our own truth here in Australia and tell our story. So
And
yeah, Robert, look, I can't press upon how wonderful I loved this book, learned a lot, and I did share with you. I'm going to send it to one of my friends who is a horticulturalist because I know she'll love it from the perspective of the trees and the nature and the design. So, Robert, well done.
thank you very much, my dear.
It has been an honor to talk to you. I feel
Well,
very privileged.
well,
And are you going to keep writing, Robert? Like, is there more work for you, or are you just going to enjoy this one?
well, I'm enjoying it very much at the moment because it's selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, yeah.
And but in the meantime, while I've been waiting for the publisher to bring it forward,
Yes.
um, I've written 74,000 words of a novel
Wow.
uh, uh, set in a coastal town not very far from Canberra.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah,
But
nice. Well, when that book comes out, Robert, I would love to have you back and chatting about that one as well.
it's a delight
Yeah,
to
but all
talk
the
to you.
best. Thank you for joining us.
You're most welcome.
Cheers.